Your doctor just told you your blood pressure is perfect, but you can barely make it from your bedroom to the kitchen without feeling like you're going to pass out. Or maybe you've been on blood pressure medication for 5 years and you've fallen twice in the last 6 months, bruised your hip, scared yourself half to death, and everyone keeps telling you it's just part of getting older. Here's what nobody's telling you. The blood pressure number that looks perfect on paper might be slowly stealing your independence, your energy, and your ability to live the life you've worked so hard to enjoy. And the scariest part, your own doctor might have no idea this is happening to you right now. What if everything you've been told about blood pressure after 60 is completely backwards? What if the medication that's supposed to be protecting your heart is actually putting you at risk of something even more dangerous? I'm going to show you exactly what's going on, and by the end of this video, you're going to know more about blood pressure in older adults than most doctors learned in medical school. But first, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button right now and drop a comment with your age so we can build a community of people who refuse to just accept what they're told without asking questions. Here's the truth that's going to shock you. Medical guidelines for blood pressure in older adults have changed dramatically in the past few years, but most doctors are still using outdated information from 10 or 15 years ago. Meanwhile, newer research has uncovered something absolutely critical. For people over 65, the danger isn't just high blood pressure. It's also blood pressure that's pushed too low by aggressive medication. Let me say that again because this is vital. Too low is just as dangerous as too high, but in completely different ways. I've talked to women who describe the same nightmare over and over. They went to their doctor with blood pressure readings around 140 over 85. The doctor immediately put them on medication, sometimes 2 or 3 different pills. Within weeks, they started feeling exhausted, foggy, weak. They'd stand up from a chair and have to grab onto something because the room would spin. One woman told me she stopped going to her church group that she'd attended for 18 years because she was terrified of falling on the stairs. Another said she gave up grocery shopping because twice she'd gotten so dizzy in the store that she had to sit down on the floor in the middle of the aisle, humiliated while strangers stared at her. This isn't living, this is surviving, barely. So what should your blood pressure actually be? What's too high, what's too low? And how do you find that sweet spot where you're protected from stroke and heart attack, but you can still function like a normal human being? That's exactly what I'm going to count down for you today. 5 critical things you must know about blood pressure after 60. Each one is important, but when we get to number 1, you're going to understand why so many older adults are struggling and what you can do about it starting today. Coming in at number 5, and this is something that affects most older adults, but hardly anyone understands it. We need to talk about isolated systolic hypertension. I know that sounds like complicated medical jargon, so let me break it down in plain English. Your blood pressure has 2 numbers. The top number, called systolic, measures the pressure when your heart is pumping. The bottom number, called diastolic, measures the pressure when your heart is resting between beats. Isolated systolic hypertension means that top number is high, maybe 140 or 150, but the bottom number is normal or even low, like 60, 5 or 70. Think of your arteries like a rubber band. When you're young, they're stretchy and flexible. When your heart pumps blood through them, they expand a little and then bounce back. But as you get older, those arteries get stiffer, kind of like a rubber band that's been sitting in a drawer for 20 years. When your heart pumps blood into stiff arteries, all that pressure has nowhere to go, so that top number shoots way up. Meanwhile, when your heart relaxes, that bottom number stays normal or even drops lower than it should. Here's why this matters for you right now. If you're 72 years old and your blood pressure is 140, 3/66, your doctor looks at that 143 and thinks, we need to fix this. But that 66 is telling a completely different story. It's saying your system is already running low on pressure between heartbeats. If medication pushes that bottom number even lower, you're going to end up dizzy, weak, and foggy. Research has shown that about 2/3 of people over 65 who have high blood pressure have this isolated systolic type, which means most older adults are dealing with a fundamentally different kind of blood pressure problem than younger people, yet they're being treated with the same one-size-fits-all approach. One person shared with me that every time she bent down to unload the dishwasher or pick something up off the floor, she'd get dizzy when she stood back up. Her blood pressure medication was doing a great job lowering that top number from 148 down to 122, but it was also dropping her overall pressure so much that when she changed positions, her brain wasn't getting enough blood for those first few seconds. That dizzy feeling is your body screaming that something's wrong. This specific pattern needs different treatment, something that acknowledges your arteries have changed, and that's actually normal to some extent as you age. But as important as understanding this is, the next problem is even more widespread, and it's causing millions of older Americans to be treated for high blood pressure they don't actually have. Now we're at number 4, and this one is absolutely infuriating because it's so easily preventable. We're talking about white coat hypertension and inaccurate blood pressure measurements. White coat hypertension means your blood pressure goes up just because you're at the doctor's office. Think about it. You had to rush to get there on time. You're sitting in that sterile exam room. You're worried about what the doctor's going to say. Your body releases stress hormones, your heart beats faster, and suddenly the reading on that machine is 20 or 30 points higher than it would be if you were relaxing at home on your couch. Studies have found this affects 15 to 30% of people diagnosed with high blood pressure, and it happens even more in older adults. Here's the nightmare scenario. Your blood pressure at home is perfectly normal, around 120/75. But at the doctor's office, you're nervous, and it reads 148/88. Your doctor sees that number and immediately starts you on medication. You go home, take the pills, and your already normal blood pressure gets pushed down to 98/62. Now you're exhausted, dizzy, can't think straight, and everyone's congratulating you on your great blood pressure control while you can barely function. Many people report being started on 2 or 3 blood pressure medications, all because of readings taken when they were anxious in a medical setting, when their actual blood pressure at home during normal life was perfectly fine. Here's what you absolutely must do. Get a validated home blood pressure monitor, one of those upper arm cuffs that's been tested for accuracy. Every morning and every evening, sit down in a quiet room, feet flat on the floor, arms supported at heart level. Wait 5 minutes, then take 2 readings 1 minute apart. Do this for at least 1 full week, ideally 2 weeks. Write down every single reading. Now here's the crucial part. When you go to your doctor's office, bring that log of home readings. Those numbers reflect what your blood pressure is doing during your actual daily life, not during the artificially stressful moment of a doctor visit. One woman told me she'd been on medication for 3 years, feeling terrible the whole time. She started monitoring at home and her average was 119/73. She showed her doctor those 2 weeks of data, and they tapered her off medication. Within a month, she had energy again, could think clearly, and her blood pressure stayed perfectly normal without any pills. That's not rare. It's happening all the time, but only when people advocate for themselves. Also, proper measurement technique matters enormously. Your bladder should be empty because a full bladder can raise your reading by 10 to 15 points. Your feet should be flat on the floor, not dangling. Your arms should be supported at heart level, not hanging down or held up by your own strength. The cuff should be the right size for your arm. If these things aren't done correctly, that reading is meaningless. But even with accurate measurements, you still need to know what numbers you should actually be aiming for, and this is where things get controversial. We're at number 3, and this is where you need to pay very close attention because this information could literally save your life. What should your blood pressure actually be after 65? Current guidelines from major medical organizations say it should be under 130/80 for most adults 65 and older. That's a significant change from older guidelines that said 140/90 or even 150/90 was acceptable. Here's what this means in practical terms. If you're 70 years old and your blood pressure consistently runs 130/6/84, you probably need some kind of intervention. Research has shown that keeping that top number below 130 reduces your risk of heart attack, stroke, and even dementia. But here's the critical part that most doctors gloss over. That target assumes you're relatively healthy, not frail, not having frequent falls or dizziness, and that you can tolerate the treatment without major side effects. For people who are more frail, maybe you're 83, you've had health issues, you're unsteady on your feet, the target might need to be more flexible. A blood pressure of 140/90 might actually be safer for you, because pushing it lower could cause more harm than benefit through falls and injuries. This is why you can't just look up a number on the internet and assume that's right for you. You need to work with your doctor to figure out what makes sense for your specific body and situation. Now, here's where lifestyle changes become absolutely crucial. Let's say your blood pressure is running 130/4/86. That's not emergency territory, but it's not optimal. The Daesh diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, can lower blood pressure almost as effectively as medication for many people. What this really means is eating lots of fruits and vegetables, 7 to 9 servings per day. A medium apple is 1 serving. A cup of leafy greens is 1 serving. Half a cup of cooked vegetables is 1 serving. You're eating whole grains, lean proteins like fish and chicken, beans, nuts, and low-fat dairy. The crucial part is drastically cutting sodium. Most Americans eat 3,000 to 4,000 milligrams of sodium per day, when they should be under 1,500 if they have high blood pressure. That puffy, swollen feeling in your ankles and fingers by evening, that's often excess sodium making your body hold onto water, which increases blood volume, which raises pressure. When people cut out processed foods, restaurant meals, and stop adding salt, they often see their blood pressure drop 10 to 15 points within 3 to 4 weeks. One person was running 140/86. Her doctor wanted to start medication. She asked for 3 months to try lifestyle first. She cut out the frozen dinners she'd been eating almost every night because one of those has 1,200 milligrams of sodium. She cooked simple, fresh meals, walked 25 minutes each morning, and within 6 weeks her blood pressure was 120/2/75. 3 months later, it was holding at 119/70, 3 with no medication needed. Physical activity makes a huge difference too. Moderate exercise like brisk walking for 30 minutes most days can lower blood pressure by 5 to 8 points. Your heart becomes more efficient, your blood vessels more flexible. If you're carrying extra weight, losing just 10 pounds can drop your pressure by 5 to 10 points. These aren't tiny changes. They're significant, and they come without the side effects of medication. However, there's one danger that ties all of this together, something that affects almost every older adult on blood pressure medication, but hardly anyone talks about until it's too late. Coming in at number 2, we need to talk about the medication trap that's putting older adults at serious risk. Research has found something absolutely shocking. Among people over 80, blood pressure medication was just as likely to cause a serious fall as it was to prevent a stroke or heart attack. Think about what that means. The treatment is creating a danger equal to the danger it's preventing, just a different kind of danger. Here's what happens when medication pushes your blood pressure too low. Your brain is fighting gravity up there, at the top of your body, needing steady blood flow to function. When pressure drops too much, especially when you stand up, your brain doesn't get enough blood. You feel dizzy, lightheaded, foggy. Your vision blurs, your balance falters. One day you stand up, that wave of dizziness hits. You reach out to steady yourself but miss, and down you go, hip fracture, hospital. Rehabilitation, loss of independence. All because everyone was so focused on a number that they forgot to ask if you could safely walk across your living room. People describe it like walking on a rocking boat. They're never quite sure the ground will feel steady. One woman stopped going to activities she'd loved for 20 years because she was terrified of falling. Another man gave up his daily walks, something he'd done for a decade, because twice he'd gotten so dizzy he had to sit down on a stranger's lawn. These are real consequences. Your life being stolen piece by piece. The side effects go beyond falls. Constant crushing fatigue. Brain fog where you can't remember words or concentrate. Feeling emotionally flat, like color has been drained from life. When doctors check, they often find these patients are on multiple medications pushing their pressure to 100/60 or 90, 5/58. Those numbers look great on paper, but they're too low for that person's body to function. I know what you're thinking, but I need this medication or I'll have a stroke. That's a valid concern. High blood pressure does increase stroke risk. What I'm telling you is the solution isn't just taking pills to get numbers as low as possible. There's a sweet spot where pressure is low enough to protect your heart, but high enough that your brain gets adequate blood flow and you don't fall. Finding that requires paying attention to how you feel, not just what the monitor says. But even understanding all of this isn't enough if you don't know about the single most important issue affecting blood pressure in older adults. This is it. Number 1. The most critical thing you must understand. We're talking about orthostatic hypertension, and this ties everything together. Orthostatic means standing, hypertension means low blood pressure. Put it together, and it means your blood pressure drops when you stand up. Specifically, a drop of 20 points or more in that top number, or 10 points in the bottom number within 3 minutes of standing. When this happens, you feel dizzy, lightheaded, your vision goes gray or sparkly, maybe you feel like you'll faint. It's your brain not getting enough blood for those first seconds after you stand. Studies show 20 to 30% of people over 65 experience this, and many have no idea. They think, I get dizzy when I stand up. That's just aging. No, it's not normal aging. It's a sign your blood pressure regulation isn't working right, and it puts you at enormous risk for falls. Here's how it's supposed to work. When you're sitting, blood pressure is evenly distributed. The moment you stand, gravity pulls blood toward your legs. Your body has a sophisticated system that immediately tightens blood vessels in your legs, squeezes blood back toward your heart and brain, keeps pressure stable. This happens in a fraction of a second. But as we age, that system gets sluggish. The sensors don't respond as fast. The blood vessels don't tighten quickly. And if you're on medication relaxing those vessels, it gets even worse. Here's the critical connection. If your doctor only measures blood pressure while you're sitting, they have no idea what happens when you stand. You could have sitting pressure of 136/82, which looks like it needs treatment, but when you stand, it might drop to 96/60, which is too low. If your doctor starts medication based on that sitting reading, they might make your standing pressure dangerously low without knowing it. One woman told me she was having coffee at her kitchen table, feeling fine. She stood to answer the phone and the room spun. She grabbed for the counter, missed, and went down hard. Bruised ribs, sprained wrist, terrified it would happen again. When her doctor finally tested sitting and standing pressure, sitting was 130/76, but standing it dropped to 97/61, a 33-point drop. That's why she fell. She'd fallen repeatedly, thinking it was clumsiness, when really it was measurable and treatable. What do? Test yourself. Check blood pressure after sitting 5 minutes. Write it down. Stand up, check immediately, then after 1 minute, then after 3 minutes standing. If it drops 20 points or more, or if you feel dizzy, you have orthostatic hypertension. Tell your doctor immediately. Treatment often isn't more medication. It's being smarter with what you're taking. Maybe you take your blood pressure pill in the morning when medication peaks right as you're most active. Switching to nighttime might solve it. Or maybe you're on 3 medications when you only need 1. Careful reduction under supervision could fix the problem. Simple strategies help enormously. Don't jump up quickly. Sit on the edge of the bed for 20 seconds before standing. Let your body adjust. When you stand, tense your leg and core muscles. Squeeze your thighs and buttocks. That pushes blood toward your brain. Stay well hydrated. Dehydration makes this much worse. Drink enough that your urine is pale yellow. Compression stockings help prevent blood pooling in legs. This is number 1 because it's the bridge between too high and too low. It's the clearest example why treating blood pressure in older adults isn't just about getting a number down. You have to treat the whole person, know what pressure does in different positions, balance stroke risk against fall risk. Pay attention to quality of life, not just length of life. One man was on 4 blood pressure medications. Sitting pressure was beautifully controlled at 117/71, but he'd fallen 3 times in 6 months. His wife said he'd become withdrawn and anxious, afraid to go anywhere. A new doctor tested standing pressure, and it dropped to 87/53. They cut to 1 low-dose pill. Sitting pressure came up to 127/76, still acceptable, and standing pressure stopped dropping so dramatically. Within a month he was steady on his feet. Within 3 months he was back to volunteering and his weekly card games back to living. That's the goal. Not a perfect number. A good life. So here's what you do starting today. Get accurate measurements at the doctor's office with proper technique and at home with a validated monitor. Check sitting and standing to detect orthostatic hypertension. Know your target based on your age, health, and tolerance for treatment. If pressure is borderline high, try serious lifestyle changes first. Daesh diet, exercise, weight loss, stress management, and sleep can make dramatic differences in weeks to months. If you're on medication having side effects like dizziness, fatigue, brain fog, or falls, talk to your doctor about whether pressure is too low or orthostatic hypertension is contributing. Don't suffer thinking this is normal aging. You deserve to feel good. Think clearly, move without fear of falling. Changes take time. Dietary improvements show results in 2 to 3 weeks. Full benefits in 3 to 6 months. Exercise follows the same timeline. Be patient but consistent. Small daily changes create dramatic results over time. You deserve doctors who listen and treat you like a whole person, not a number. You deserve information that makes sense and that you can use today. Dizziness, fatigue, and fear aren't things you must accept. They're warning something's wrong and you have power to address them. If this helped you, hit like so others find this information. Share with anyone over 60, especially on blood pressure medication or having falls. Comment below. Will you check your standing pressure this week? Share your experiences to help this community. Subscribe for more honest, research-backed information that helps you take control and live your best life at every age. You've got this. Your best years are ahead, and now you have the knowledge to protect your health while enjoying every single day.